With the DC Dual Force second beta weekend literally right around the corner, I thought it would be cool to put out a leader tier list. We're going to go over every single leader in the game and assign them a tier. In this video, I'll be joined by Moyen, another player who's really excited about DC Dual Force, and we'll discuss our opinions on the leaders and roughly how good they are. Before the video, we decided to categorize each of the tiers. We have S+, S, A, B, C, and D. Now, we have very rough definitions for each of these tiers, but here's what they are. S+ is probably in need of a nerf. S is meta-defining, A is just good, B is okay, C is there are probably better options for that particular strategy, and D should probably be buffed. Now keep in mind when we talk about the game and the meta and how good each of the cards are, we're talking about it through a very limited lens. We've only had 15 hours to play the game over the course of the last beta weekend, and then the both of us have also played a little bit on Tabletop Simulator, and a very limited pool of players have ever had access to the game, so obviously deck building is not refined, strategies are not refined. This is just our initial thoughts on what the game is shaping up to look like. But hopefully the conversations we have about these leaders will give you a better idea of what characters you want to use when you jump into the beta for the first time this coming weekend. I also want to quickly mention this is not going to be the only video that goes out today. You'll have a gameplay video from the previous beta coming out very shortly as well. All right, I'll let Moyen introduce himself and then we'll jump straight into the discussion.
Hey guys, my name is Moyen. I love card games. I used to be a Hearthstone pro, now I compete in Snap tournaments and create content for both Snap and DC Dual Force. Also, I cannot wait until the release of Bursting Boom Tube.
And start where it makes the most sense to start with Batman.
Where would you put Batman?
Well, I think he belongs here, right? It's the only spot that makes sense.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, I mean, Batman does a lot. We've talked about it a handful of times before we've done this tier list video. I mean, this tier list video literally started because we kept talking about this exact concept, so it just made sense to make the video. Batman just gets so much tempo off of his ability. He gets to attack for 3, so you're going to clear off most early game things. In addition to that, he's generating a gadget, which 25% of the gadgets happens to be another thing that contributes to clearing up the board. So he gets a total of 5 attack. 50% of the time off of the Seek, which is split up into 2 different sources, so you can clear with things with Shield, you can clear up 2 different recruits simultaneously, or with the activation of a 2-cost ability. It's not even to mention the flexibility he gets out of the other gadgets and the support across the gadget factions. I don't think there's any disagreement with having with Batman here. But do you have any particular thoughts you want to share with Batman or anything along those lines?
I think you're still downplaying how good Batman is. I think because like the tier gas also really impacts the board. Often,
yes.
Or not often, but sometimes it's even better than the Batarang when you just tier gas a 2-3 and it's kind of dead. You just need to punch through it still, where Batarang wouldn't even be able to do that. So it's by far the best tempo, but at the same time it's also providing enough value so you basically don't run out of resources ever because you can hold gadgets for both Lucius and Batman. And then it also enables a Batmobile win condition at some point.
Yeah, there's a lot of really strong support cards within the gadget archetype. And if you're already going to be running those gadgets, it just makes sense to run Batman. And even without the gadget support, Batman would be considered among these top tiers here already. So considering that archetype is really good, the character would already be good. It just kind of gets Batman into that S+ category pretty easily, I think.
I agree. Also, Alfred is, I think, the most notable support because it literally says give a charge to Batman. And then it also means if your opponent's going first, you can turn 2 activate Batman with Alfred, which can clear more than they can put down on a turn 1.
Yeah, between Steve Trevor, you're probably running Steve Trevor in that list as well, because we're usually, at least the most popular build for Batman right now is blue-red. So you can run Steve Trevor and you can run Alfred. So the odds of you being able to use your ability on your turn 2, which is assuming you're going second. Sorry, on your turn 1, assuming you're going second, which you can clear up whatever they played on turn 1. And then if you're going first, your turn 2, clearing up whatever they played on turn 1. Yeah, I mean, either way, it's insane amount of tempo for the early turns of the game. All right, moving on to Green Arrow. Whereabout do you see Green Arrow falling?
And I think now a small issue starts for the other leaders in the same faction as Batman, because they have to either complement Batman or they need to at least provide a reason why you would play them over Batman. So I don't think Green Arrow does either of those things. Which puts them in C tier for me.
Oh my God, there's a pretty big gap to where I was gonna put him.
Really?
Yeah. My inclination was actually around A. Green Arrow, in theory, should be
Mm-hmm.
one of the better characters at stalling out the game.
Yes.
His 2-cost ability gives him access to something that will contribute to the board in some way. He has to spend resources. He has to spend resources on that thing. But any of the individual trick arrows are cards that you would put in your deck if you could. They're all good in their own particular use case. If you compare any of the arrows to any of the removal tools in any of the other factions, the arrows kind of win out in their respective costs. It's very hard to feel it right now because obviously Batman is very, very good. I feel like Green Arrow is also quite good. But you are right in that because Batman is there, why run Green Arrow? At least in most builds. So maybe we can meet in the middle here and throw him in B, unless you can convince me otherwise.
B could be fine. So he provides value that will swing back tempo at some point. It's just I can't see myself playing Batman Green Arrow together, and I can't see myself playing a deck without Batman but with Green Arrow. So those are the two biggest issues. The big upside to Green Arrow is that you get to play Felicity Smoke.
Yes, that's
to
true.
give him a charge. But then if you're not playing Batman, there's a lot of blue cards that suddenly get a lot worse, and then that's also another issue. So we can meet in the middle if you insist.
You might have convinced me when you said Felicity Smoke, because my first thought was, oh, well, yeah, that's great. Felicity Smoke's a great card, but when you compare Felicity Smoke to Alfred, which is funny that because we're essentially going back to the Green Arrow Batman comparison, but charging Green Arrow is significantly worse than charging Batman. You charge Green Arrow and you get another card that you have to pay for. You charge Batman and you clear the board. So
and also not only that, but Alfred gives you a bandage, which will be useful at some point always, while Felicity Smoke has start draw a card. So sometimes it doesn't even do anything.
I would say oftentimes it won't even do anything because oftentimes the opponent, I think most good decks in the game will have some way of dealing spot damage, whether it be with a ping or an actual removal tool. So yeah, Felicity I don't think will often draw cards, at least not after like a turn 1 play or something like that. So yeah, you know what? You've convinced me. Good job. You brought me down 2 tiers. You managed to do it. Maybe in a world where Batman was down towards A, I would bring Green Arrow up toward B or something like that, but or even A. But because of the context of Batman, you know what? You did it. You convinced me. Good job.
I'm not happy about that. It hurts me so.
It hurts me as well because I actually like Green Arrow's design a lot. All right, Batgirl. Do you have any strong opinions of where Batgirl should land? I was thinking around A.
Around A.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking B, which is generous considering it's in the same faction as Batman.
Yeah,
because I think Batgirl at least offers something unique and quite powerful at times. She has somewhat decent support in her own faction. I think most notably the best on deploys would be Gordon or Speedy, or maybe the Question. But I think she's probably best paired with Tyranny, where you can play Sinestro, Anton, and there's just a couple really, really good on deploys she can trigger there.
Yeah, I agree. Tyranny has a ton of powerful deploy effects that can be re-triggered with Batgirl. And you're right. I think a big part of the consideration of how good Batgirl is comes down to how good Commissioner Gordon is. And Commissioner Gordon's fantastic because obviously the cards combo together quite well. Commissioner Gordon can come down at the earliest of turn 3, excluding any weird ramp synergy. And then obviously Batgirl's ability activates on turn 3, assuming you're going second.
I don't know if I can convince you here, but one reason why she could not make it into A tier for me is also that she has 17 HP, and that's really low.
Yeah, I was actually, I've got that down here on my notes as well, that 17 is extraordinarily low, especially, again, compared to Batman's 2-cost ability, which is substantially better, and he has 19, so yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, the 3 attack is nice. You could see an ability like this not even having attack. So I don't know. Maybe B is the correct. I guess it comes down to what your A tiers are going to be. I will move down to B because she was already on like my lower end of A anyway. So maybe we just I'm happy to fall in line here just because Again, she was just barely making it into A for me anyway. I feel like we're going to have differing opinions on this next one. Cyborg, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about Cyborg. Cyborg like actually does something that no other leader in the in the game does, as it gives you a win condition that you cannot outlast ever, as long as Cyborg stays alive. And I think that's pretty unique and strong. He almost made it into S tier for me, but he's A tier for me.
Oh, we actually hit the exact same spot. That is exactly where I had Cyborg. I thought you were gonna go high. I thought you were gonna go S. And I was gonna fight for that one. But we both landed on A, so that's actually quite surprising. Yeah, basically the same thought process as you. There's no other effect like this in the game. He's an extraordinary threat. If you're running something like Batman that the opponent wants to deal with early, if they try to focus down Batman, well, now they have a gigantic Cyborg to deal with that has a ton of damage. Yeah, I mean, you echoed the exact point that I wanted to, which is that he infinitely scales. If you don't deal with him, you just lose the game. And that's a fun archetype. And obviously, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but if you do pair him with Batman, you have the alt win condition of Batmobile, so you can do Batmobile Cyborg combos on the same turn as each other. That you definitely didn't do to me in beta. That would be rude. So yeah, I'm pretty high on Cyborg. I don't know if the optimal Batman list includes Cyborg, but either way, I think Cyborg's a viable strategy.
I think it's one of the best decks in the game. Maybe not the best Batman pairing, but what I like about this is while the other ones are good heroes on their in a vacuum, and they kind of want to play not mono blue, while Cyborg is actually pretty good at playing in mono blue together with Batman.
Yeah, if not literally just because of Batmobile, because he can.
Yes.
If they leave Cyborg up, Batmobile's still got the win con. Where if you're not running mono and they kill Batman, you don't have a target for Batmobile anymore.
Yeah. Plus, Batman, while being the best. Okay, we're still talking about Batman. Batman is not just providing all the tempo that you need to stay alive for Cyborg. Batman also provides card draw with the upgraded bandages and the recruit Batman that also draws a lot of cards. So it actually even synergizes with Cyborg.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of card draw generation in tactics, both from Luthor's Fox and, as you mentioned, the Batman recruit. So yeah, they just happen to work together quite well. All right, next faction, Might. Starting with Superman. How do you feel about Superman? I didn't know quite where to place Superman, so I'm a bit flexible on this one. How about you?
I think Superman is a pretty good hero. It's just I don't know if he compares that favorably to the other Might heroes.
Yeah, that's about how I feel as well. I mean, 7 attack is pretty good. I mean, it's gonna clear. Yes. It's gonna clear anything. The big limiting factor is that it's a 3-cost ability compared to some of the 2-cost abilities. It doesn't measure up favorably, and then compared to the other 3-cost abilities, it definitely doesn't measure up favorably, especially when we get into the next card. But
to me, it's also he's pretty good at everything, but not outstanding at any particular thing, because it's the 7 damage while being invincible is decent at removal, but at the same time it's a 3 charge ability, and it's also decent damage, but it's like nothing too special at either of these two.
The one nice thing about Superman is that he does have one of the highest health values in the game. I'm not sure if that's going to end up mattering too much, especially because he literally has the invincible tag on his attack anyway.
But that just adds to it on top of it. That makes him a very tanky hero that never
yes
face tanks damage. Also, I think we should mention Lois Lane at this point, as it's a little bit below average card if you don't play Superman, but actually a really good card if you play Superman. If you just if you draw a card of Lois Lane and get a charge out of it, it's very comparable to how good Alfred is for Batman.
Yeah, and the nice thing to mention about Lois is that she can trigger multiple times. So if she lives, you could actually get Superman's charge substantially higher than you could off of something like Alfred or Steve Trevor or one of these other cards. Obviously, that's a bit snowbally, and if you've hit that, you're already probably in a good position if they didn't manage to kill off Lois Lane. But it is worth mentioning regardless.
We still haven't put him in a tier, have we?
No, I know. That's it's an awkward one to place, isn't it?
I would place him in B tier.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Does it? You know, I'll throw him in B tier for now. He's definitely better than Green Arrow. I don't know if he's better than Batgirl, but we'll throw him in there. Aquaman up next. I think we both are really high on Aquaman.
Yes.
I think most of the community is quite high on Aquaman at this point.
It's the best proactive board hero probably, and also the hero power scales with itself. The ability scales with itself. So you like never run out of ways to create boards, and on top of that, you also get to cheat out the sea creatures a little bit earlier because the Might faction plays a couple ways to add extra charges, like Steve Trevor, and I think there's a gold
Dual Force.
Dual Force also. And if you pair the card with blue, you also get to run Robin, which also adds charges to Aquaman.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously got a super high ceiling to it as far as how big this ability can get. The later the game goes, the scarier Aquaman is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. The character creates a ton of tempo. It contributes to the board. It generates not resources as in the thing you pay for cards, but it generates things that the opponent has to deal with. And it also has a pretty high defense value as well. It's actually surprising to me how high his defense value is compared to some of the characters with, I would say, less impactful abilities.
Also, it enables a couple good Might cards to run. One of them most notably being Dawn of Atlantis, where you get to often keep Dawn of Atlantis even, which makes you less reliant on having 4 bronze cards to use all your resources, because turn 3 you get to go Dawn of Atlantis plus the sea creature. And I also I personally I'm really big on Truth and Justice, and this card makes Truth and Justice even better because you get to spawn something on the board before you play Truth Justice in the same turn.
Yeah, you've recently convinced me on Truth and Justice, by the way. I'm fully on board with that card being really, really good. And obviously, like you said, you can play it on the turn that you activate an Aquaman ability, essentially giving you another target for that buff. So we haven't actually set a tier for him, but I think S is appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think with everything we've said, there's no other appropriate tier.
Yes, agreed. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is another example of a cheap ability in the game, comparable to Batman in some ways without the resource generation. Instead, without the card generation, I should say. And instead, she gives your recruits +1 defense. I don't think you and I have actually talked about Wonder Woman very much, other than saying we both think she's good. Where roughly do you think she falls?
I think she's still S tier, but somewhat close to A tier. She's like very low S tier. Because I like Aquaman like quite a bit more, but she's still levels ahead of everything else, I think.
Yeah, I'm exactly where you are. I think it's really difficult to make a 2-cost ability that removes bronze cards, which is what these 4 and 3 attack things are doing. I think it's really hard to make these abilities bad, especially in a faction that has access to a card like Steve Trevor. So, yeah, Wonder Woman. Yes.
Also, she is better in decks that try to flood the board early and be very aggressive, because then you get to make better use of the +1 HP part of the ability.
But I would even say that decks that don't do that will still like running Wonder Woman. Decks that even give up board early will appreciate running Wonder Woman, just because there's so few abilities in the game that are 2-cost and do let you remove something. The fact that she can be run in kind of a slower deck just to contribute to the board state early as like a removal tool is also fine.
If she didn't say +1 HP to all your recruits, she would still be a fine hero. So having that on top of that just makes her really, really good.
Yeah, agreed. Doomsday, we're gonna differ on this one. This one's gonna be a fight. I can feel it.
Oh, I hope. I don't know. I am worried where you put him.
Well, let's see. Where do you want to put him?
I want to put him right next to our boy Green Arrow.
Okay, all right. I thought you were gonna fight for D.
No,
Okay.
I see some potential in him.
Yeah, I think potential is a great way to sum up Doomsday. When I first looked at Doomsday, I thought, okay, this card is an aggro tool, because he obviously has that first line of text that says, after an enemy leader is KO'd, charge Doomsday twice. I think a lot of people immediately jump to, I've killed one of the enemy leaders, I must be an aggressive deck. But I think the more I think about Doomsday, he's not even an aggressive card. The effect triggers at earliest turn 4. Killing an enemy before turn 4 won't happen very often. So I think the goal is to trigger Doomsday's effect on turn 5, which will result in resolving that after an enemy leader is KO'd, gain 2 charge, ultimately resulting in 2 activation of Doomsday's ability in a row, just because you get the 2 charge from the activation, the 1 extra charge because you're using this on turn 5 instead of turn 4, and then the extra charge from your turn starting, making up for 2 attacks in a row, dealing 10 damage in total. And then he also has 24 defense. So I think there is something to be said for Doomsday. I don't think he's the worst leader in the game. I would actually put him slightly ahead of Green Arrow if we end up ordering these tiers. But for now, we'll just chuck him in.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Also, if you just look at the sheer damage he puts out, he's really, really good because it's just 20 damage over 6 turns in an optimal world. I think the biggest downside to Doomsday is how hard it can sometimes be to connect those 20 damage to your opponent's face.
Yes.
Which I think you raise a very good point in that he might just be better in a more mid-rangey or even control-y shell than in an aggressive deck.
Honestly, this one is so hard for me to evaluate. Harley Quinn, how are you feeling?
I'm very big on her.
Really?
Yeah, she's one of my favorite heroes to play in the game.
My notes...
She just changes the entire way you can build the deck.
Yeah, I agree. My notes have her sitting at B.
B?
Yeah.
I have her an A, but like I kind of want her an S, but I think A is reasonable.
Yeah, I will say that it is surprisingly easy to empty your hand. You can actually do it really, really quickly. The thing is, I don't even think you want to do it with the discard package. The first thought when you want to empty your hand is like, oh, we want to run like Giganta, we want to run all of these cards that read discard. But I think that the better and easier, the easier, but also better way to do it is just running the cards that are free and then playing like a really high bronze ratio, just dumping your hand and just being okay with playing cheap cards after that, but being able to play 2 of them per turn.
Yeah. To me also, it's not like you want to get rid of your hand. She doesn't reward you for like doing that, but at the same time, she rewards you. She gives you resources when you run out of them. So you can spend your resources more freely because you will always still be able to play 2 cards a turn, which can enable like hyper aggressive decks where I also want to play all the 4 free cards of Anarchy to still be able to outvalue some mid-range or even control decks.
For anyone who doesn't believe the Harley Quinn hype, once you get in beta next weekend, or if you get in beta next weekend, on the first chance that you get, definitely try out some Harley Quinn because you'll be surprised just how valuable it is to take a hand that would otherwise be 1 card at the start of your next turn into instead being 2 cards because of the prior turn's end of turn draw card. You'll be surprised just how impactful that is.
Also, a lot of decks that don't run any card generation are really bad because they just run out of cards too quickly. If you have no card for no card generation. And she enables you to play just that deck that would otherwise be unplayable, where you just don't play any card draw or card generation.
Yeah, 100%. You know what? That would literally with that last sentence, I think you convinced me to A. We'll throw her an A. Okay, Joker. I'm pretty high on Joker. I don't know how you feel about Joker. Where are you at?
I think Joker, like I played against Joker in the beta last weekend quite a bit, and I was surprised how much damage potentially he enables. So I think he can even enable some burn type decks, where you just play a lot of firepower and direct damage to your opponent's face. And while you do that, he also clears up the board at the same time. He doesn't just go damage your opponent's leader. So I think he's pretty good. I think he barely just still makes it into A tier for me.
Yeah, that's exactly where I had Joker. I weighed him a little bit higher than you. Like for me, he's pretty solidly A, where it sounds like he's just eking in for you. But either way, we agree he's in A. Similar points to what you said. He has a surprising amount of impact when you synergize him with the firepower effects, which Anarchy has a lot of firepower effects already just within its own faction. And then also running Joker enables the ability to run Punchline, which Punchline would otherwise be, I think you would run Punchline in almost any Anarchy list if it wasn't for the fact that it had to run specifically with Joker. Yeah, I think we're both in agreement, and we can move on to the energy faction. We might end up with where Hal Jordon belongs here, but I think we'll disagree a little bit about
initially.
Yeah. Hal Jordon.
I think he he's barely in a tier for me. He's also very close to being in the worst one of the tier that I put him in. And the tier that I put him in is C tier.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say D. I thought you were gonna say D.
I kind of want him to be in D tier, but it's not Hal Jordan's fault. All the Green Lanterns are most of the Green Lanterns are pretty bad.
I'll hesitantly agree with that. All my notes really say about Hal Jordon is that Hal Jordan's power level is directly relative to the Green Lanterns. If Green Lanterns are ever strong enough that they are have an impact on the metagame, you will have to run, or I guess you don't necessarily have to, but you almost have to run Hal Jordan, because the bronze resource generation is very impactful for those cards. And then, of course, those cards all synergize with each other in a very direct way. So you need a constant chain of them to be able to keep their effects flowing from one to the other. And Hal Jordan giving you that extra card to guarantee that, hey, I've got an additional Green Lantern in my hand is substantially stronger than you might think. I do wish this effect was a seek effect instead of just generate a Green Lantern at the beginning of the game, just because not only are there already quite a lot of Green Lanterns, so the pool is quite diluted, but also we've already seen on the comic book adventure page that there's a lot more Green Lanterns on the way. So that pool is only going to get wider and wider, and so Hal Jordan's initial start of game effect is only going to get worse and worse.
I mean, the effect doesn't get worse just if there's more. I think the more the ratio tilts towards silver Green Lanterns, the worse it gets. Because I think he's really good at making your first few turns more resource efficient if you just get a bronze Green Lantern of him, and you can build your deck a little bit heavier.
Yes, I'd agree. The main reason I said it specifically gets worse is because you're less likely to get Chase Along, which is a card I think you really want in your opening hand as the Green Lantern player most of the time.
Chase Along's pretty bad.
You think Chase Along's bad?
Yeah, it's just a 2/2.
Yeah, but you need to play it for the other effects. You need to play it for the other effects.
Yeah, that shows how bad the Green Lanterns are.
Yeah, okay. True and base. Sure. The Flash. I've got the Flash in A. Where have you got him?
I also have him in A. Still.
Yeah. Basically, the philosophy of this is that it's a 2-cost ability. 2-cost abilities can't be bad. Is my basically my well, I guess we have Green Arrow and C.
2-cost ability is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
As in, often you get to kill a bronze minion, or but also have an extra attack on top of that. In best case scenario, you get to kill 2 minions, or get to, I guess sometimes you get to go phase once and kill a minion. But I think there's a couple reasons why he belongs in A, why he's not outstanding on its own. First of all, I think it's the best leader in the green faction. And second of all, I think he can enable some like really aggressive strategies where you focus on getting a lot of burst damage out of being able to attack twice with the Flash.
Yeah, I agree. Running the Flash also enables Iris West, which I think is one of the better energy cards, which you otherwise wouldn't run without the Flash, obviously. And then obviously he has a high combo potential, like combo ceiling potential. There's a lot of crazy things you can do with your leader having Flurry. Obviously, though, his low health does hurt him. 17 is extraordinarily low. It's the lowest value of all of the leaders. The only one being comparable is Batgirl.
Which also matters a lot because the Flash is probably the one that also face tanks the most, because they sometimes want to face tank twice in the same time.
Yes, of course. Batgirl having 17 health hurts her less than Flash having 17 health hurts him.
Just to highlight the damage potential he can possess, there's also Power Surge, which just adds 6 attack. Oh, not 6 attack, it adds 6 damage for the Flash.
Yep.
And then also if you pair the Flash with other factions, you get access to Candle for an insane amount of damage, but also Truth and Justice for just consistent big damage swings.
Lots of really cool ways to buff the Flash. Lots of combo potential, but also even outside of those crazy combos, just a good card. Shazam! Where do you have Shazam?
I think he's in D. And I don't think it's close.
I had him in C, but I think I'm being generous.
Yeah, it's a 3-cost ability, and the bolts are cute on paper, but they take too much time in reality to actually reasonably come into effect and change how the game is going to play out.
It should be a good effect in theory. It's 5 attack, so it should clear any moderately large recruit. He adds 5 lightning bolts into your deck, but granted it's a 40 card deck, but he adds 5 lightning bolts into your deck. But really, I think the issue is that lists that would otherwise want to run Shazam would prefer to have an ability that can actively contribute to the board earlier. At 3, I feel like I'm never going to get enough value out of this. Don't get me wrong, Shazam can certainly high roll some games, but as far as like consistent meta deck building, I don't think Shazam's going to be a part of it unless we see some changes to everything going on here.
One thing I think we have to talk about here is the average game length, because if the games would take 15 turns on average, that Shazam would be a pretty good hero, but I don't know how much they take exactly on average, but in my experience, it was more like maybe 7 turns.
Yeah, 7's about where when people ask me how long's a DC Dual Force game, I say, I don't know, usually around like 7 turns.
And I think in 7 turns, it just does less than most other heroes.
Plenty of people have already figured this out, but the first time you look at Shazam, you think, oh, maybe it belongs in a Cyborg deck, or maybe it belongs in a Poison Ivy deck, or something like this. But I think if you run Shazam, especially the way that the game is paced at the moment, I think it needs to be like a very control-y archetype, one that's trying to push the game as long as possible, because that's really the only way I think you're ever going to even have a chance of consistently doing any lightning bolt stuff. Don't get me wrong, there will, like I said, there will be games where you high roll with Shazam, but it won't be very consistent.
Also, the best pairing for Shazam is Batman, because it
True.
helps you not die and it helps you draw cards.
True.
And it's Batman.
True, just go Shazam Batman. I try not to think about it like that because it feels like, oh, what's the best pairing for this leader? Well, it's Batman. What's the best pairing for this leader?
No,
oh,
but
well, it's Batman.
It's not just because Batman's Batman, but it's I think they're actually pretty synergistic together. As in, you get to go into faction for the card draw, plus you get to play the gadget card draw.
Yes, that's true.
Which helps you go to the bolts faster. So, non-ironically, even if Batman wasn't at the tier where it's at the tier where it is right now, I think it could still be the best pairing for Shazam.
Yeah, I agree. Zatanna's an awkward one to evaluate because it's the question isn't, is Zatanna good? The question is the spell package good? Where do you feel about Zatanna?
I think Zatanna has potential, don't get me wrong, but for me it's even worse than Green Arrow because they have a similar ability as they create a card for 2 charges, but I think it's a lot easier to gain back the lost tempo with Green Arrow than it is with Zatanna. Because the magical spells, they are 7 of each cost except gold. A decent amount of them are situational that won't help you in the near future. And then that means that you can either hit a card that is too situational and doesn't really help you right now, or you can hit a card that is decent for its cost, but it's not the cost that you are currently looking to fill out. So I just think there's a lot of ways Zatanna can miss.
Yeah, you covered almost every point on my that I've got here on my notes. One point that I'm not sure you did go over is that if you use this ability on turn 2, which is the earliest you can use it, 66% of the possible cards you can generate, it's only possible that 66% of the cards you can possibly generate with her ability are going to be cards that you can play. You're missing out on 33% of the possible cards she can generate on turn 2 when you play her are silver cards, so you're not going to have the chance to play them, which feels pretty bad.
Also, if you're going to build your deck around magical spells, Zatanna's probably still your hero. And magical spell support exists quite a lot in the energy faction. The problem is that almost all of the support is rather mediocre, in my opinion.
No, I was going to bring up a whole conversation about the spell support package, but it turns into a much larger conversation, so I'll avoid it for now. But know that the main magical spell synergy just cares about whether you have it in your hand. You need a constant supply of magical spells, so you are right in that if magical spells is an archetype we run, we have to run Zatanna. There's no question, because you absolutely need a constant supply because of all of them care about you recently having either played or having them in your hand. Timothy Hunter wants you to have it in hand. Gift of Nabu wants you to specifically have played a magical spell that turn, and Gift of Nabu is probably one of the better magical spell generation cards. Whereabouts do you want to throw?
I want to put her in C tier.
Yeah, I agree. Black Adam.
It's time for Black Adam.
I've got him in B.
You have it in B?
I have him in B.
I can read my notes for Black Adam.
Read them, go.
They say, at least it has 22 HP, but sadly no ability.
I don't don't think it's quite that doomer for Black Adam. For Black Adam's effect to be efficient, I evaluate it at around, you want to use it around turn 6. So for that to be the case, you need to play 4 5-attack cards before turn 6. I mean, you have only 5 natural silver resources between turn 1 and 5. That puts you, meaning that of those 5, 4 of them need to be 5-attack cards. So you need a very high ratio of 5-attack cards to make that possible. Obviously, the quality of your deck might dip quite a lot just by forcing that interaction. With that said, I think if the game's pacing slows down from being like an average 7-turn game to being like an average 8 or even 9-turn game, Black Adam gets substantially stronger very, very quickly.
Okay, but so if the meta was different, Black Adam could be better. But with we were talking for SHAZAM, we have an average length of the game of 7 turns, and you're telling me at 6 turns maybe it gets to attack if we make our deck worse, and it doesn't do anything for the first 5 turns, and it's in B tier. I can't.
Yeah, you're right.
For me, it's in D tier.
I know it's in D tier for you. It's a vibe. I could feel it.
And it's also worse than SHAZAM, I think.
Oh
SHAZAM
my god, worse than SHAZAM. You can't convince me to come down to D, but I'll come down to C for Black Adam. The situation can't be that bad for Black Adam. It just can't be. It just can't be. It can't be.
So on the weekend, we've played 15 hours of the game, and I haven't seen Black Adam attack yet.
I saw it once, so
that's why it's in C tier for you. Attack parts.
Well, I don't think many people were building around them, to be fair. I don't think a lot of people were trying to explore archetypes during the beta. I think most people were just trying to figure out like a thing that they can win with, because they want to win and not lose. Lex Luthor. My notes for this are very short.
Reading?
Yes, my notes for Lex Luthor are.
I want to guess them.
Okay.
I think your notes are pretty mediocre leader, but at least it's the best purple one.
Yeah, basically, it's the best purple one, and an on-demand KO effect is better than I thought, and I already thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah. In theory, this enables you to play a little bit controllish because you have this on-demand removal, which also is awkward to play against, because if you know they will have that removal, you still can't stop playing your biggest threat most of the time, because if you stop playing your biggest threat, they could just hold the legs and you fall behind on board. So it's actually pretty decent, and also Black Adam and Ivy are not good competition. So if you want to play purple, often Lex is probably your best bet.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's very comparable to Superman in a lot of ways. And for that reason, I kind of want to just throw him in B.
Wait, let me look where I have him. I also have him in B tier, but Lex is the best hero of its faction, and Superman is the worst one of its faction.
Yeah, well. What are you gonna do?
Also, just like an actual deck to talk about, where I played purple yellow inmates. Lex Luthor ended up being the best leader, even for that, like a very aggressive deck where you could think it could just profit of having the 3/2s of Ivy, but still the spot removal was better in an aggressive deck.
Yeah, very early on, I thought that Lex Luthor made sense in aggressive decks. Just to remove walls and continue to hit faces. So yeah, I agree. That makes sense. Do we agree on B? All right, B it is. The last leader we're going to go over is Poison Ivy. Where do you think she falls? I don't
think you will agree with this. Because she's not that bad, but she's in D tier for me.
D, really?
Yeah. She does everything every 2 turns, which is not that bad. It's fine. But the problem is, what she does is worse than what every other 2-cost ability does. And she has very limited support. I think she has like the 06 Ivy Trap, which is not that good.
I think that card's pretty solid, actually. I think my evaluation is that
it's not enough reason to have this card be good.
Okay, all right. I mean, honestly, it sounded like you were reading my notes. I said almost the same thing. In theory, Ivy's Savage Vines should be decent enough. I mean, you're spending 2 for a 3/2, and you can still spend your resources to develop your board further. But in practicality, the other leaders are doing significantly more with their 2-cost abilities than what Poison Ivy's doing. So the end result is that if you want to run Poison Ivy, you have to run it in some pretty greedy control combo strategies. I think is probably the best home for her, at least right now, as far as what we've explored of the game. And those strategies are just weaker than the other options. So
you would even have to play this in like a control deck, but this in a control deck you'd kind of prefer the spot removal. So she would have to be like your win condition, that the Poison Ivy's summons actually kill your opponent, so you have to summon and draw on the same turn. So you kind of have to play her in purple blue, and I don't know how you want to play Poison Ivy in a purple blue control deck. It's possible, but it just doesn't sound powerful to me.
I agree. She doesn't exactly have a home right now, but it's worth noting that if she does have a home in her current state, it wouldn't be one we immediately identify. Like the optimal Poison Ivy deck is not going to be one that we figure out in 15 hours of beta gameplay time. I'm a little bit hesitant to put her in D.
Sure. If you want to put her in C, that's probably fine.
I'm happy that even collectively, even though I made some concessions throughout this, that we both agree Shazam's just the worst. That's and the Batman's the best. Those I think are really the important distinctions, and then everything here in the middle, whether we disagree a little bit exactly about where their placement should be, we've got a rough agreement of where they should be placed. Do you have any sorry?
We're still very close on most, if not all, leaders on where they should be.
Yeah, I agree.
I in my opinion, the D tier would have been a bit bigger, but I like that you see the potential in cards and what they could be.
Yeah, I definitely see the desire to put. I think it was just Poison Ivy and Black Adam that I pushed back up into C, where you would have had them in D. There you go. There's our C list. Any closing thoughts? Oh, sorry, C list. There's our tier list. Is there any closing thoughts you have on the current state of the game, or leaders in general, or anything along those lines?
I mean, I enjoyed doing this a lot with you, and people can feel free to laugh at us if we are very wrong about this.
That's true. I mean, we've only had 15 hours. There's a good chance that the game looks a lot different as people optimize decks. But that's a part of the fun.
15 hours in the beta, but it occupied a lot more time for me.
Yes, me too. All right, well, thanks for doing this. Hopefully we can do more stuff like this in the future. And I'll leave all your stuff in the description so people can find you. And yeah.